Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Betty Chen. On February 5th, Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov in Beijing just 7 months after their last meeting. With U.S. President Donald Trump stirring up a tariff war against China and Panama withdrawing from the Belt and Road Initiative under U.S. pressure, China is strengthening ties with Central Asian nations. Beijing aims to position the newly launched China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway as a flagship Belt and Road project. How should this latest U.S.-China maneuvering be analyzed? And what is China's new strategy for Central Asia? Joining us today are Leonard Chao, National Tsinghua University Adjunct Professor, and Tsai Jung-hsiang, National Chung-Cheng University Political Science Professor. A warm welcome to both of you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyrgyzstan is one of the 5 Central Asian nations, alongside Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. Strategically located as a gateway between Asia and Europe, this region has long been a focal point of competition among Russia and China and the United States. According to Xinhua News Agency, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov signed Belt and Road Initiative agreements, with China pledging to expand economic and trade investment in Kyrgyzstan. Japarov stated that bilateral relations have reached a new level in recent years and reaffirmed Kyrgyzstan's firm support for China on Taiwan, Xinjiang, and Hong Kong issues. So my first question is directed to Professor Tsai. What will be the political message being sent from this meeting?
Yeah, I think the meeting between Kyrgyzstan and China, particularly regarding initiatives like the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway. This is very, very important. Signals a shift toward deeper economic cooperation, especially as 5 Central Asian countries. They try to explore more diversified relationship or partnerships with China. So this meeting highlights China's growing influence in Central Asia, where its Belt and Road Initiative, we call BRI, offers substantial infrastructure investment in this area. For Kyrgyzstan, as well as other Central Asian countries, the opportunity for economic growth through such partnership is very, very appealing. Especially, they are looking for alternatives to Russia's long-standing dominance in this area, basically just for security reasons. But now they try to seek financial assistance in this region with persistent development challenges. So it's their strategy to have a better relationship with China.
So, Professor Tsai, you talk about that in the past, maybe these 5 Asian countries focus more on a security relationship with the United States. But now it seems that over the years, they have maintained close relations with Russia as well. And now China tries to exert greater influence on this region. What's the political position of these Central Asian countries, in your opinion, Professor Chao?
All right. Okay. China's interest in and the approach with Central Asia can date back to more than 2,000 years ago. All right. So back in the Han Dynasty, I think it's a well-known fact in the Chinese history that the emperor's special envoy Chung-Cheng, he had a very well-known passage to the western, west regions. We call it in Chinese 张骞通西域. But now, given the more complicated situation, China is standing now as a much more complex than it was. China is more required to get associated with its neighboring region, Central Asia. But now Central Asia is located, as you mentioned earlier, at the gateway between Asia and Europe. And now China is standing as one of the major powers in the world. Given the geopolitical challenges facing China economically and politically, so China has no reason not to approach the Central Asia. Let alone that, we're going to cover later on the CKU, the China, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, the railway project. The project has begun as early as 1997, before China's open door policy, before China has become an economic power. So China has thought about that. They want to, engage in this, in this very, very important project. But given the Russia's opposition, for China's funding. So it was postponed to just recently, late last year. Now the railway construction is having a very high-profile groundbreaking ceremony. So I think now it goes without saying that China has no choice. And even given the U.S. approach, the anti-China approach still underway, and also the Russia's withdrawal, given the war in Ukraine. So Russia cannot be involved in this part of the world, where it used to be very dominating power there. So China is standing. I think it's a situation call for this China's rising involvement in Central Asia. So let's wait and see. I think it's going to be more Chinese involvement.
Definitely. A follow-up question. As you have mentioned, Professor, you talk about in the past, the project has been proposed back in 1997, but it hasn't been seen. We haven't seen any progress until now. What's the reason for Putin to give a green light right now? Well,
I might say, to be frank, that the war in Ukraine has heightened. Used to be Russia used to be popular with the five Central Asian nations, let alone that all the five nations, they were all former republic of the Soviet Union. But now given the war in Ukraine, so that has has given the China's increased opportunity to get involved, because given the invasion, which is not popular, of course, and also the sanction imposed on Russia economically, that deal a heavy blow to Russia's development. So Russians have limited, I think, substantially decreased ability and the resource to get involved in Central Asia. So China has been called for by most of the nations to help to get in the way. So I think this the Russia, the Kremlin have to maybe regret what they have done, because in terms of the involvement in Central Asia, Russia has downgraded the declining economic influence in that part of the world.
So the situation has become more and more complicated. So
that's right.
Going back to what we have been talking about, now my question is directed to Professor Tsai. Yes. According to the diplomat, after winning the election, Donald Trump spoke with Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev about establishing an investment partnership. Also, Marco Rubio, when he was a senator, he also talked about the importance for the United States to strengthen its cooperation with Central Asian countries. In the Trump 2.0 administration, what will be the significance of Central Asian nations? What's their significance, and what do they mean to the United States? And how will Trump's policy be different from that of the Biden administration?
As we know, Trump's approach is very, very transactional, and sometimes economic focus, because he tried to use tariffs as a weapon. So his administration will engage with Central Asian countries, primarily in terms of securing favorable deals related to energy, trade, or infrastructure. So Trump has shown a tendency to prioritize bilateral relationship over multilateral relationship. So we can expect increased pressure on Central Asian countries to provide tangible benefits, because he's outcome-ended president. He wants to see the outcomes. What's the final outcome? What's the benefits for the United States? So under Trump 2.0, there could be a continued effort to prevent too much Chinese or Russian influence in Central Asia, especially with a focus on ensuring these countries maintain a degree of independence in their foreign policy. Because for those countries, maybe they can navigate a delicate balance between economic ties with China, maintaining security, and political relations with Russia and the U.S. at the same time. I think it's very, very important. So we will see U.S. will challenge the BRI footprint in Central Asia more, yes.
Definitely, it's a very delicate issue. And according to China state media on People's Daily, the second China Central Asia Summit will take place in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, this June. And the previous summit took place 2 years ago when China sought support from Central Asian countries to counter Western influence. Now we understand that Donald Trump has returned to the White House. In this upcoming summit, what kind of agreement might be reached in this summit, and what will be the key developments in your projection?
Well, okay, the Central Asia Summit, okay, it's not it has been frequently conducted over the past decades. China, take one thing for example, Xi Jinping, after the ending of the COVID, Xi Jinping, has been selective in his foreign visits, but only last year in July, he visited 2 Central Asian countries. One is Kazakhstan. One is Tajikistan. So these 2 countries they visited in July. So they have made the Xi Jinping one of the 2 of the countries he visited most frequently, only next to Russia or Moscow. Why is that? Because obviously Xi Jinping has put this frequent visits have signaled the increasing significance of those Central Asian countries in the Chinese foreign policy priorities for the coming years. So I think China will consolidate its efforts. It's a long-standing one, let alone that continue the ties with Central Asia, and and also what kind of agreements will be reached. I won't rule out the possibility of any kind of collaboration, or they may want to raise the level, like to strategic partnership. Okay, not limit to the economic cooperation.
So maybe anything is possible, right?
Possible. That's right. So that's the beauty of of international affairs. We don't rule out any. So don't get surprised by any agreement. I think talk about Trump. If I may follow up on the question,
yes.
Trump definitely he tried to do something different from Biden administration. Okay, I think he enjoyed being different from Biden in whatever. Look at what happened in the past few days.
Right.
Now, this one is not an exceptional case. I think but to be fair with the U.S., the United States does have some opportunity to redouble this engagement in Central Asia. In Central Asia, because the Central Asian nations, they used to be, highly evaluating the U.S. support for, the integrity and also the sovereignty of the Central Asian nations.
But definitely we have to keep watching the development.
Of course. Yeah.
We have talked about the CKU railway, so now let's focus on this. Turning back to the meeting between Xi Jinping and Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov, Xi emphasized the importance of developing the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan CKU railway, often referred to as the Steel Silk Road. The railway project broke ground on December 27th last year and will span approximately 523 kilometers, linking Kashgar in China's Xinjiang region with Kyrgyzstan and reaching Adjunct in Uzbekistan. Once completed, it will serve as the shortest freight route from China to Europe and the Middle East, reducing the current transit distance, mainly routed through Russia, by 900 kilometers and cutting transport time by 7 to 8 days. This project is set to reshape the regional economic landscape. So talking about the importance of the CKU railway, according to some news report, it may be completed by the year 2030. Once operational, we just can't help but wonder what will be the strategic advantage and trade benefit China could enjoy. Professor Tsai.
Like you said, the 3-country railway will provide China with a more direct, efficient route for trade to Europe and Middle East. So currently, China's trade to these regions often passes through Russia. So if you try to have a new railroad, you don't have to go to Russia, right? You can go direct through these 3 countries. So by providing a shorter and faster route, the railway will significantly, like you say, reduce transportation times and shorten distance by 900 kilometers. So the whole thing will benefit Chinese exporters, enable them to move goods more efficiently and economically. It could also reduce logistic costs for China, so making its goods more competitive in international markets. So the whole thing, the operation of this railway will further deepen China's tie with Central Asian countries, eroding the United States influence in this area, because it used to be like very important for United States for like counterterrorism, energy transit, and regional stability. So U.S. have to do something more. Maybe they have to develop more relationship with Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. So it's kind of like a little sum game, right? Because for China's gain, it's American loss, right? So this is very, very important. So if China strengthens its economic and political foothold in this area, the U.S. could face difficulty maintaining its leverage in Central Asia, especially these countries become more economically rely on China. Yes, that's my opinion.
Professor Tsai, you talk about having this railroad. It's more like China's gain and also U.S. loss. What about Russia? As mentioned by you, Professor Chao, you talk about, well, Russia's opposition for 27 years. And because of this railway, originally, all these goods and transport would go through Russia, but now they just pass by Russia. Do you think that this will weaken Russia's dominance in Central Asia?
Yeah, I'm afraid so, because Russia can do nothing about it. And I think there must be some engagement going on behind the scene, because the CKU railway construction, the project is not necessarily all the kind of beautiful story. Okay, they live happily ever after. I think some hidden challenge still remains there. For example, that the Kyrgyzstan, is highly suffering some high amount of debt with China, because that might provide another economic challenge facing Kyrgyzstan. So that's one of the reasons why this time Kyrgyz president visiting Beijing, they're trying to negotiate with China, because let me cite one figure that Kyrgyzstan's debt to China is about 1/3 of the country's whole GDP. Okay, now so it's a heavy debt Kyrgyzstan is suffering, but now more heavily rely on the Chinese investment, because for the CKU railway project, definitely China is going to be the one of the most domineering investor. So if I list some more challenges for Kyrgyzstan, can they return the debt? Or so I think going to be another maybe a bad side story of the BRI. It's a repetition of another BRI debt problem. Now, Russia, because Russia, I think, has to face the reality. In the past, Russia remains the most dominant power in Central Asia. But given the war in Ukraine and also the sanction, as I mentioned earlier, so now it has led the China to take over, and of course, Russia doesn't feel comfortably, with the Chinese, increasing involvement. But they have to manage the divergency between Beijing and Moscow, because now the more practical, more convincing objective for two powers, Beijing and Moscow, is facing U.S. They rather like to cooperate, although with some competition between them, to beef up their alliance in the presence in Central Asia, to keep United States and West out of the region. I think that will serve the interests of Moscow as well. So I think it's not the reality. It's not to their likings, but they have to live with that. They have to face that, because so far it's rather better than to let U.S. get involved. So China is better than U.S. from the Moscow's perspective.
Now I have a question regarding the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah.
It seems that these 5 Central Asian and some other countries definitely, despite the debt problem, they still believe and strongly support the BRI. However, there are some other countries like Panama, they decided not to continue with the BRI. So in your opinion, what does the future hold for the BRI? Professor?
We cannot see just the bright side. Sometimes we have to see the dark side, right? Especially for developing countries, right? You cannot borrow too much money from a foreign country, because it's gonna erode your economy. So this is very, very important. But the thing is that I want to say something about Russia, because Russia is still is stuck in the Ukraine war. And they need to ask for help from China. So I like to say this, China is like a food panda to Russia, right? Not only food, but also parts of weapons. So the thing is that China is taking advantage of this golden opportunity to step in, like Professor Chao said, right? So they can cooperate with these countries in Central Asia. But the thing is that sometimes you cannot get too close. Why? Because sometimes if you put your eggs in the same basket, it's gonna be the problem. Mm-hmm. So it has to be careful, right? So the thing is that for those countries, they try to have a multi-pronged foreign policy because sometimes they cooperate with US or Russia or China. So that's the only way. We call hedging policy. They try to hedge against big powers. Otherwise, they're gonna get stuck there. They cannot repay the debt, and they're gonna be a big problem for their countries. Yes.
Don't put all of your eggs in the same basket.
Yes,
that's
the phrase. Yes.
Moving on, according to Ukrainian media outlet Strana, Donald Trump is planning for a ceasefire agreement between Ukraine and Russia by April 20th. However, Ukrainian President Zelensky made it clear that there are no such plans. How will the negotiations between Trump and Putin unfold in reaching a ceasefire agreement, Professor?
If let's cast aside some theoretical analysis, given my former humble foreign service, I think that it's not easy to reach a quick result of the ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia, because with the U.S. is looking at that, so with the Trump's involvement, that might maybe further complicate the otherwise easy pie to be cut. Because Trump has some, his agenda in mind, and Zelensky also has his. So he doesn't want to kind of easily cave in to Trump's request, if not instruction, to cease the fire. I think so that's why they have to, keep their high posture to say, no, I'm not that easy to agree with you on whatever you say, because they have some domestic pressure to deal with. Back in Ukraine, let alone that the war has been going on for 3 years. Now the whole world is watching. The result of this, very, very painful and very, tragical, war. Now so I think this must be some give and take going on. Some negotiation between the. I think the news has released that some of the rare earth, some real mine is going on, but so far that Zelensky hasn't nodded his head on that. So all the words keeps coming from the White House, or more specifically from Trump's mouth. Mm-hmm. So we don't know. It's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a quick deal. I think, of course, it cannot no longer last story for another period of time, because no one forget what Trump used to say during his campaign time. I can end the war in 24 hours.
And it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. Now maybe 24 weeks, right. If not 24 months, right. to end this deal. So I think this is going to be a long-standing effort. Keep watching.
Definitely, we have to keep watching the situation.
Yeah.
And given a complicated relationship among the U.S., China, and Russia, it seems that for a while, the U.S. and China and Russia are more closely aligned against the United States. Do you think that this kind of situation will continue, or there will be a shift in the trilateral relationship, Professor Tsai?
Yeah, the thing is that the relationship between U.S. and China is very fraught right now, right? Because you see the trade war, a technology war ongoing. So they have to stick around for quite a while. So facing the U.S. trade and tech wars or sanctions, China and Russia can only stick together, right? So maybe they are gonna deepen their off-limit relationship. So the U.S. wants to do something, okay? They want to stand taller. They want to force their hands unilaterally on both countries. So Russia is weakening militarily, and China is weakening economically. So the U.S. can play one against two in this game. So I think Russia and China, they will come together, right? Because they don't have other choices. And for the United States, it's very, very important. Let me say something about the plan for Donald Trump to deal with the Ukraine war. The thing is that he tried to say, I'm going to settle this, not for days, hyperbole, right? For days, it's not going to happen. But the thing is that he doesn't want Ukraine to join the NATO. But the thing is that for Ukraine, if we cannot join the NATO, how can you guys guarantee our security after the ceasefire? So they were stuck there. But for Trump, he tried to tag Russia to go to the negotiating table. If you say, oh, Ukraine is going to join the NATO, Russia is not going to have a ceasefire. So that's the current situation. But Trump is a peacemaker and a dealer, and I do believe he can work out something, but not of course not for a day, maybe a couple months. But I do believe because he has some leverage over Putin, right? Vladimir Putin, at least he wants to listen to him, right? Listen to what he wants to say. So I think maybe we can see something happen in the near future.
So as you said, President Trump is more outcome-oriented, so hopefully we'll be able to see some concrete outcomes in the near future. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. So thank you very much for your insights. If you like our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching our show today. Stay safe and see you next time.